What kind of person smashes a store window in broad daylight, then demands to be let off because she's having a bad day? Karen Mitchell, all 300 pounds of her, stormed into the Memphis sun like a hurricane with a grudge, her purse swinging like a wrecking ball. The little boutique on Beale Street, its window now a spiderweb of cracks, never saw it coming. She didn't care about the handmade dresses displayed inside or the dreams of the shop's owner, a single mother named Lila who'd poured her life into that store. Karen's voice boomed, sharp and entitled, as she yelled at the stunned onlookers. "You don't know what I've been through." But the crowd wasn't buying it. Phones were out, recording every second of her meltdown, and the air crackled with their outrage. This wasn't just a broken window, it was a breaking point. Lila had been behind the counter, arranging a new display of scarves, when Karen burst in, demanding a refund for a dress she'd bought months ago. The dress, Lila noticed, was stained and stretched beyond recognition. "Ma'am, our policy is 30 days, Lila said, her voice steady but firm. "The kind of calm you practice when you've dealt with too many customers like this." Karen's face twisted, her cheeks flushing red. "Do you know who I am?" she spat, as if her name carried weight in this small shop. Lila didn't flinch, but her heart raced. She'd seen this before, people who thought rules didn't apply to them, but something about Karen's wild eyes told her this was different. Dangerous. Outside, the Memphis heat clung to the pavement, and a small crowd had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Karen's voice carried through the open door, each word a jab. "This is theft. You're stealing from me." Lila tried to explain, her hands gesturing toward the policy sign, but Karen wasn't listening. She slammed her purse on the counter, knocking over a display of earrings. "Give me my money, or I'll make you regret it." The threat hung heavy, and Lila's assistant, a quiet teenager named Jamal, froze in the corner, his eyes wide. The air felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. Then Karen grabbed her purse, swung it with all her might, and sent it crashing through the storefront window. Glass exploded outward, glittering in the sunlight as it rained onto the sidewalk. The crowd gasped, and someone shouted, "She's lost it!" Lila stood frozen, her hands trembling as she stared at the wreckage. Years of saving, of late nights sewing dresses, of hoping this shop would be her legacy shattered in seconds. Karen, unfazed, stepped through the broken frame, her chin high as if she'd won some grand victory. "You deserved that," she sneered, brushing past Lila. But the crowd wasn't letting her walk away. A man named Marcus, a barber from across the street, stepped forward, his phone already recording. "You're not going anywhere," he said, his voice low but firm. "You broke her shop. We saw it." Karen spun around, her eyes narrowing. "Mind your business," she snapped, but Marcus didn't back down. Others joined him: Tamika, a nurse on her lunch break, and Javier, a street musician who'd been strumming nearby. Their phones were out too, capturing every angle of Karen's defiance. The truth started to unravel fast. Karen's story about a bad day didn't hold up. Marcus, still filming, asked the crowd if anyone knew her. Tamika spoke up, her voice sharp with recognition. "She's the one who screamed at my coworker last week over a parking spot at the clinic." Javier nodded, adding, "Yeah, and she yelled at my kid for busking too close to her car." Karen wasn't just having a bad day, she was a walking pattern of rage, leaving a trail of chaos wherever she went. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their anger coalescing into something bigger. This wasn't about one window anymore. It was about every time someone like Karen thought they could bully their way through life and walk away unscathed. Lila, still in shock, stepped outside, glass crunching under her shoes. She looked at the crowd, their faces a mix of pity and fury, and felt a spark of something new, not fear, resolve. "She can't keep doing this," Lila said, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying weight. Marcus nodded, his phone still trained on Karen, who was now pacing, her bravado starting to crack. "We're calling the cops," he said, and the crowd murmured in agreement. Karen's head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic for the first time. "You can't do that," she shouted, but her voice wavered. The truth was sinking in. She wasn't in control anymore. Then came the twist, a gut punch none of them saw coming. Jamal, the quiet assistant, stepped forward, his hands shaking as he held up his phone. "I checked the security footage," he said, his voice breaking. The crowd leaned in as he played the video. It wasn't just Karen smashing the window. Moments before, she'd slipped something from the Count-era small, hand-stitched purse Lila had made for her daughter's birthday into her bag. Theft. The crowd erupted, their voices overlapping in a chorus of disbelief and anger. "She stole from you too?" Tamika said, her eyes blazing. Karen's face drained of color, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For the first time, she had no words. The footage was undeniable, and the crowd's phones were still rolling, capturing every second of her unraveling. The standoff grew hotter as the Memphis sun beat down, the shattered glass glinting like a warning. Karen's eyes darted from face to face, searching for an ally in the crowd, but found none. Marcus stood firm, his phone steady, his voice cutting through the tension. "You stole from her, Karen. We've got it on video. You're done." Her lips curled into a snarl, but the bravado was slipping, replaced by something rawer. She clutched her purse tighter, the stolen item inside now a ticking bomb. "You don't understand," she stammered, her voice pitching higher. "I didn't mean to take it. It was an accident." But the crowd wasn't swayed. Tamika stepped closer, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a long shift, her patience long gone. "An accident? Like that window was an accident." The sarcasm dripped, and the crowd murmured in agreement, their phones still recording, a digital jury bearing witness. Lila, still reeling, felt her shock harden into anger. That purse wasn't just a product, it was a piece of her heart, crafted late at night while her daughter slept, a promise of better days. She stepped toward Karen, her voice low but steady. "You didn't just break my shop. You took something I made for my girl." The crowd quieted, the weight of her words sinking in. Karen's eyes flickered with something guilt. Maybe, but she doubled down. "You're lying," she shouted, pointing a trembling finger at Lila. "You're all ganging up on me." But the accusation fell flat. Javier, the musician, shook his head, his guitar still slung over his shoulder. "We're not the ones stealing and smashing things, lady." The tension spiked as sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Karen's head whipped toward the sound, her face paling. "You called the cops?" she shrieked, her voice cracking. Marcus nodded, unyielding. "You broke her window. You stole her stuff. What did you expect?" The crowd parted as a police cruiser pulled up, two officers stepping out, their faces unreadable. The taller one, Officer Hayes, surveyed the scene. The shattered window, the angry crowd, Karen's defiant stance. "What's going on here?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. Marcus didn't hesitate, holding up his phone. "We've got it all on video, officer. She smashed the window and stole from the shop." Karen's eyes widened, her hands flailing as she tried to interrupt. "That's not true. They're lying." But Jamal stepped forward, his phone ready with the security footage. The officer watched, his expression hardening as the video played. Karen's purse swinging, the glass shattering, the stolen purse slipping into her bag. Karen's defiance crumbled as the second officer, a woman named Officer Ruiz, approached her. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us," Ruiz said, her voice leaving no room for argument. Karen's shoulders slumped, but she couldn't resist one last outburst. "This is unfair. I'm the victim here." The crowd scoffed, and Tamika muttered, "Victim of what?" "Your own bad choices." The officers didn't engage, but their eyes said enough. They'd seen people like Karen before, people who thought they could scream their way out of consequences. As Ruiz guided Karen toward the cruiser, the crowd's anger softened into something else. Justice, hard-won and bittersweet. Lila watched, her heart pounding, as Karen was led away. The crowd stayed, their phones finally lowering, but their voices buzzed with a mix of triumph and exhaustion. Marcus turned to Lila, his expression softening. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, though her hands still trembled. "I will be," she said, glancing at the broken window. The shop was her lifeline, and now it was wounded, but the crowd's support felt like a lifeline too. They hadn't just filmed Karen, they'd stood up for her shop, for what was right. Tamika put a hand on Lila's shoulder. "We'll help you fix this," she said. Javier nodded, adding, "I know some guys who can replace that glass cheap." The solidarity was unexpected, a warmth in the midst of chaos. But the twist wasn't over. As the officers searched Karen's purse, they found more than just Lila's stolen item. Tucked inside was a wad of cash, hundreds of dollars, far more than the cost of the dress Karen had demanded a refund for. Officer Hayes raised an eyebrow, holding up the cash. "Care to explain this?" he asked. Karen's face went ashen, her mouth opening but no words coming out. The crowd whispered, piecing it together. Had she been planning to scam Lila all along? Was this a pattern, not just a bad day? The officers exchanged a look, and Ruiz added theft and potential fraud to the charges. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and vindication. Karen wasn't just a bully, she was a calculated one. And now the truth was catching up. Karen's world collapsed in the back of the police cruiser, her hands cuffed, her voice reduced to a low mumble of excuses no one cared to hear. The crowd outside Lila's shop dispersed slowly, their phones pocketing the evidence that had sealed Karen's fate. Officer Hayes stayed behind, taking Lila's statement with a gentleness that contrasted the chaos. "We'll make sure she's held accountable," he said, glancing at the broken window. Lila nodded, her throat tight. The shop was quiet now, the air heavy with the scent of dust and glass. Jamal swept the floor, his movements slow but deliberate, as if reclaiming the space from Karen's destruction. Lila looked at him, grateful for his quiet strength, and felt a pang of guilt for how exposed he'd been to her outburst. "You did good, Jamal," she said softly. He gave a shy smile, the first since the chaos began. The fallout spread fast. By evening, the videos were everywhere in X, on local news, shared and reshared with captions like, "Memphis Karen goes wild," and "Justice for Lila's shop." The footage of Karen's meltdown, paired with Jamal's security video, painted a damning picture. Comments poured in, some angry, some gleeful, all united in their disdain for Karen's entitlement. But for Lila, the viral attention was a double-edged sword. It brought customers, strangers who'd seen the story and wanted to support her, but it also brought stares, whispers, and the weight of being a symbol. She didn't want fame. She wanted her shop back, her daughter's purse back, her peace back. Karen faced charges: vandalism, theft, and, after the cash discovery, suspicion of fraud. The police dug deeper, finding a history of complaints against her and paid fines, disputes with neighbors, even a banned customer profile at a nearby mall. She wasn't just a one-day villain. She was a repeat offender, her arrogance a shield she'd wielded for years. In court, Karen's defense was flimsy, her lawyer arguing stress and a momentary lapse. But the judge wasn't swayed. Not with the videos, the stolen purse, and the cash stacked against her. She was ordered to pay restitution, thousands for the window, the purse, and court fees, and sentenced to community service. The crowd outside the courthouse cheered when the news broke, a small victory for a community tired of bullies. Lila's shop, meanwhile, became a beacon. The community rallied, just as Tamika had promised. Marcus organized a fundraiser at his barbershop, Javier played a free concert to draw crowds, and Tamika spread the word at her clinic. The new window went up within a week, stronger than the last, and Lila hung a sign: "Built by us, not broken by her." Customers came, not just to buy but to share their own stories of standing up to people like Karen. Lila listened, her heart swelling with each one. She'd always thought her shop was about dresses, but now she saw it was about something bigger: resilience, community, the quiet power of standing your ground. The inspiration came slowly, like dawn after a long night. Lila started teaching Jamal to sew, passing on the skills her mother had given her. He was hesitant at first, his hands clumsy with the needle, but his eyes lit up when he finished his first stitch. "This is kinda cool," he admitted, and Lila laughed. the sound lighter than it had been in days. She began hosting workshops in the shop, inviting kids from the neighborhood to learn, to create, to build something that couldn't be shattered by someone else's rage. The shop wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Its walls now lined with stories as much as dresses. Karen, meanwhile, faded from the spotlight. Her community service hours were spent cleaning streets, her face no longer haughty but tired, defeated. Some said she'd moved away, others that she'd learned her lesson, but no one really cared. She was a cautionary tale now, a reminder that actions have consequences, that entitlement doesn't win. For Lila, the victory wasn't in Karen's punishment but in what came after. The hands that helped her rebuild, the voices that stood up for her, the community that refused to let her fall. She looked at her daughter one evening, the stolen purse replaced with a new one she'd sewn herself, and felt a quiet strength. The window was whole again, but more importantly, so was she.